Shalom, I'm Rabbi David, and today I'm going to reveal something that will completely change the way you understand manifesting, prayer, and the power of your own mind. And I'm going to start with a statement that sounds unbelievable, almost mystical, but it is absolutely true. The most powerful moment of your entire day, the moment that shapes your reality more than anything else, is the final 8 minutes before you fall asleep. I know that sounds impossible. I know it sounds like some self-help slogan or spiritual cliché, but it isn't. It's deeper, older, and far more real than anything you've ever heard. Jewish mysticism teaches this. Kabbalah teaches this. The Talmud hints at this. And now modern neuroscience is finally catching up. Because those last 8 minutes, those quiet, tired, vulnerable, unguarded moments, are the gateway. The night gate. The doorway where your conscious mind steps back and your subconscious steps forward. And the subconscious, that's where your life is created. Let me explain, and by the end of this chapter, you'll understand why everything you do during the day matters far less than what you think, feel, and imagine right before you drift into sleep. When you close your eyes at night, something extraordinary happens. The physical world begins to fade. Your senses quiet down, your thoughts slow, and the soul, yes, your soul, begins to ascend. The Zohar teaches that during sleep, part of the soul rises upward, receives spiritual nourishment, and returns with insights, ideas, and guidance for the next day. That's not poetry, that's spiritual physics. And here's the part most people never learn. Angels carry your final thoughts upward, your last emotions, your last images, your last inner words. Whatever you fall asleep thinking about becomes the blueprint the spiritual world uses to shape your next reality. Think of it like a divine printing press. You hand in the design at night, and the universe prints it by morning. This is why the final 8 minutes matter. This is why the night gate is so powerful. And this is why most people unintentionally manifest chaos, fear, and lack. Because they fall asleep thinking about bills, problems, regrets, or scrolling through the lives of people they envy. They hand the universe a blueprint of anxiety. And the universe says, if this is what you want to imprint, so be it. Let me tell you a story from my own life, from a time when I was broke, scared, and completely lost. Years ago, when I had nothing, no money, no confidence, no direction, I stumbled on this ancient teaching. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought, really? The last few minutes before sleep matter more than the rest of my day? How could that be? But I was desperate. Desperation makes you humble. Desperation makes you open. So I tried it. Every night, instead of falling asleep in fear, I forced myself, yes, forced, to hold a new vision. I imagined myself teaching. I imagined abundance flowing. I imagined clarity. I imagined wealth, not from greed, but from purpose. I imagined the feeling of financial freedom, the weight lifted, the pressure gone. I held that picture even when everything in my life contradicted it. I held it through fear, through doubt, through nights where I felt like a liar to myself. But I kept doing it. 8 minutes. That was my entire spiritual practice. And something began to shift. Not instantly, not magically, but gradually, quietly, almost imperceptibly at first. Ideas started coming to me in the morning. People began showing up at the right time. Opportunities opened. My teaching career grew. Money flowed. Abundance materialized. And I realized I wasn't manifesting from the day, I was manifesting from the night. The night gate did the heavy lifting. Here's the truth. What you think during the day shapes your mood, but what you think before sleep shapes your reality. Your subconscious doesn't argue, it doesn't doubt, it doesn't resist. It receives, it absorbs, it imprints, and the universe responds accordingly. So let me ask you something. What are you handing the universe every night? Fear or faith? Worry or vision? Lack or possibility? Chaos or clarity? Because the night doesn't lie. The night doesn't negotiate. The night reveals what you truly believe. And whatever you hand it, it multiplies, it shapes, it manifests. Tonight, you will walk through the night gate again. The question is, will you stumble through carrying your fears, or will you walk through with intention, clarity, and direction? Choose wisely, because the universe is listening most loudly when you are speaking most softly, right before you fall asleep. Most people think manifestation is about wanting something badly enough, as if intensity alone bends the universe. But wanting is not the engine. Wishing is not the mechanism. Desire, in the Kabbalistic sense, is not a cry, it's a structure. And if that structure is misaligned, nothing flows. If it is aligned, everything flows. This is where most people fail. They don't understand the formula. They imagine, they hope, they beg, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But Kabbalah teaches that desire has 3 parts, and unless all 3 are aligned, your manifestation collapses like a building with missing pillars. The first pillar is thought. Thought is the blueprint. It's the architectural plan you hand to the universe. Without clear thought, you hand in a scribble and expect a palace. When your mind is confused, muddy, scattered, or divided, you're sending 1,000 mixed signals into the spiritual system. One thought says wealth, another says fear, another says unworthiness, and the universe doesn't respond to confusion. The second pillar is emotion. Emotion is the frequency. Thought designs the building, but emotion decides the wiring, the electricity, the energy that powers the manifestation. If you imagine abundance while feeling fear, you broadcast fear. If you imagine love while feeling unworthy, you broadcast lack. The universe does not respond to the picture in your mind. It responds to the vibration of your heart. That's why the patriarchs were masters of emotional alignment. They didn't just think about blessing. They felt it. They embodied it. They lived inside the emotion long before the blessing appeared. And the third pillar is intention. Intention is the vessel. It is what holds the blessing when it arrives. If thought is the blueprint and emotion is the frequency, intention is the container. Without the container, everything spills. Without intention, blessings leak out as fast as they come in. Intention is not about wanting, it's about purpose. Why do you want this? What will you do with it? What vessel will hold the abundance, the opportunity, the relationship, the breakthrough? When intention is selfish, blessings stop. When intention is unclear, blessings stall. But when intention is aligned with growth, contribution, and divine purpose, blessings flow without restriction. This is the Kabbalistic formula: blueprint, frequency, vessel. Thought, emotion, intention. When all three align, the spiritual worlds open. When even one is off, everything tightens. Now here's the part most people never learn. Misaligned desire doesn't just fail to manifest, it blocks blessing. It creates spiritual static. It creates energetic noise that interferes with divine flow. The Talmud teaches that improper desire locks the gates of abundance, not because God is withholding, but because your vessel cannot receive. Think of it like trying to tune into a radio frequency while turning the dial back and forth, never landing on the station. You'll hear noise, static, distortion. Not because the broadcast isn't there, it's broadcasting perfectly, but because you're not aligned with it. The spiritual world is broadcasting abundance constantly, but only alignment allows you to receive it. This is why the patriarchs practiced nighttime intention setting before every major shift in their lives. Before Jacob wrestled with the angel. Before Joseph interpreted dreams that changed his destiny. Before Abraham walked into the unknown. They didn't beg, they aligned. They prepared their consciousness. They shaped their desire. They calibrated their inner world to match the blessing they sought. They understood a truth that most people ignore. God does not respond to begging. God responds to alignment. Begging is a declaration of lack. Alignment is a declaration of readiness. When you beg, you say, "I do not have." When you align, you say, "I am prepared to receive." And the universe responds to readiness. This is why so many people pray desperately and receive nothing, while others whisper one aligned intention and everything moves. It has nothing to do with favoritism and everything to do with spiritual structure. God is not a vending machine. God is a flow. And flow moves through vessels, not through panic, not through fear, not through chaotic desire, but through clarity. There was a time in my own life when I prayed from pure fear, begging God to remove my financial struggles. But nothing happened. Not because God didn't care, but because my desire was misaligned. My thoughts were frantic. My emotions were rooted in scarcity. My intention wasn't to grow. I simply wanted relief. Relief is not a vessel. Relief is not a purpose. Relief cannot hold blessing. When I finally shifted, when I began thinking clearly, feeling emotionally aligned, and setting intentions rooted in growth, everything changed. I didn't pray differently. I desired differently. I aligned, and the universe responded. The truth is simple. The blessing is already flowing. The abundance is already being broadcast. The only question is whether your blueprint is clear, whether your frequency matches, and whether your vessel is ready to hold what you are asking for. When these three unify, manifestation stops being mystical and becomes inevitable. Most people think asking the universe means pleading, bargaining, convincing, or proving themselves worthy. They think God is some distant authority who needs to be persuaded, as if the heavens reluctantly open only when we cry loudly enough. But pleading does not open spiritual gates. Begging does not activate divine flow. In fact, pleading is one of the fastest ways to block manifestation, because the very act of begging declares that you do not have, and the universe reflects that declaration back to you. This is the hardest truth for people to accept. The universe does not respond to desperation. It responds to alignment. Not "I want," but "I choose." Not "please," but "I am ready." Not lack, but certainty. Wanting carries the vibration of emptiness. Choosing carries the vibration of creation. Wanting says, "I am incomplete without this." Choosing says, "I am expanding into this." One is fear, the other is alignment. This is why the way you ask before sleep matters so deeply. Not as a prayer of desperation, but as a connection, a tuning, a calibration. This is where spiritual technology comes in. Real technology, ancient and refined, passed down in the hidden places of Jewish wisdom. And yes, part of that technology includes the 72 names of God. Most people misunderstand the 72 names. They think they are magic spells, secret codes, shortcuts to manipulate the divine. But the names do not change God, they change you. They adjust your frequency so that your soul aligns with the flow that is already coming toward you. You don't use the names to demand, you use them to tune. Before I knew this, I used to lie in bed at night begging for answers, begging for clarity, begging for financial relief, begging for direction. And every night I woke up in the same fear I fell asleep with. Nothing moved, nothing shifted, nothing opened. Because I wasn't asking, I was pleading. And pleading is a declaration of impossibility. Everything changed the day I learned how to ask without asking. The nighttime practice I'm about to share is simple, but it's powerful. And I still use it every single night of my life. Not some nights, not when I'm stressed, every night. Because the night is the reset button of the soul, and what you imprint in that brief window shapes everything that comes after. Here is how it works. I lie down and close my eyes. I take one slow inhale, one slow exhale. Not to relax, but to quiet the noise, to clear the static, to tune the inner frequency. Then I bring to mind one of the 72 names, not all of them, just one. The name that corresponds to what I need that night. If I need clarity, I visualize the letters of the clarity name. If I need protection, I visualize the protection name. If I need abundance, I visualize the abundance name. I don't beg the name to do the work for me. I let the name align me to the frequency of what I am choosing. I imagine the letters glowing, not physically but energetically, like a code pattern my soul recognizes. And as I visualize, I repeat one simple phrase: I choose. Not I want, not I need, not please. I choose. I choose clarity. I choose abundance. I choose healing. I choose expansion. I choose guidance. It doesn't matter what you choose, as long as the frequency is aligned. The universe responds instantly to choice, Because choice carries power. Choice carries authority. Choice carries faith. And faith is a frequency. As I visualize the name, I feel the emotion of already having the thing I choose. I don't imagine achieving it months from now. I feel it now, right here, before sleep, in the night gate. I let my heart absorb the outcome. I let my body feel the shift. I let my subconscious take the signal. Because the soul speaks emotion, not logic. After the visualization, I ask a single question, not to beg, but to activate intuition. Show me the next step. Not the whole path, just the next step. Guidance arrives not in grand revelations, but in subtle signals. And when you ask aligned, the universe sends those signals unmistakably, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in thoughts upon waking, sometimes in opportunities that seem to appear out of nowhere. The final step is surrender. Not giving up, releasing resistance. I say quietly in my mind, it is done. Not because the manifestation has physically arrived, but because the spiritual imprint has been made. Once the imprint exists in the upper worlds, the physical world must follow. That is spiritual law. This entire practice takes less than 8 minutes. It requires no fancy tools, no incense, no rituals. Just alignment, clear thought, elevated emotion, pure intention, and the courage to choose instead of beg. When you fall asleep broadcasting choice, conviction, and alignment, the universe does not hesitate. It responds, it arranges, it orchestrates. It begins moving pieces you cannot see. Because you did not plead for your blessing, you aligned with it. And alignment is the language of creation. Most people think sleep is simply the body shutting down, a biological pause, an empty space between 2 days. They have no idea that while the physical body rests, the spiritual world becomes more active, not less. Sleep is not a break in creation. It is one of the most powerful phases of creation. And once you understand what actually happens while you sleep, you'll realize that manifestation is not a daytime activity at all. It is a nighttime partnership between your soul and the universe. When you drift into sleep, especially after aligning your desire, your emotion, and your intention, your soul begins a journey. Kabbalah teaches that part of the soul leaves the body each night, ascending to higher realms to receive nourishment, clarity, healing, and instruction. The physical body stays in the world of action, but the soul travels to the world of formation, the world of creation, the world of truth. And what the soul gathers there determines the opportunities that appear when you wake up. But the soul does more than travel. It brings your aligned desire with it. Every imprint you created before sleep, the visualization, the emotion, the intention, the certainty, is carried upward. Your desires become spiritual blueprints, energetic seeds planted in higher soil. And in those upper worlds, seeds grow much faster. They develop roots, pathways, and channels. Kabbalah calls these spiritual channels pipes of abundance. And your nighttime desires begin shaping them long before the physical world catches up. While the soul ascends, your subconscious remains behind, but becomes incredibly active. Neuroscience and mysticism agree on this point. The subconscious is the engine of your reality. And during sleep, it reorganizes, recalibrates, and reprograms. It doesn't question, argue, or resist. It simply accepts what you fed it before sleep. It dissolves resistance that blocked you during the day. It loosens limiting beliefs. It rearranges internal patterns. It integrates new emotional frequencies. The impossible becomes possible because the subconscious no longer perceives the obstacle. It perceives the imprint. This is why the night prayer that isn't a prayer works. While you sleep, the subconscious and the soul collaborate. One travels upward, one rewires inward, and together they shape your next reality. But here's the tragedy. Most people ruin this process the moment they open their eyes. You can plant the perfect seed at night, but if you awaken with fear, anxiety, doubt, or panic, you rip the seed out of the soil before it has a chance to grow. The first moments of waking consciousness are incredibly fragile. They are the bridge between the spiritual and physical worlds, and whatever emotion you allow in first sets the tone not only for the day, but for the manifestation itself. If you grab your phone before your soul has fully returned, if you check messages before you check your alignment, if you remember your problems before remembering your intentions, you collapse the energetic pathways your soul built during the night. This is why so many people feel like they take 2 steps forward at night and 3 steps back in the morning. They're not waking up incorrectly out of laziness. They're waking up incorrectly out of ignorance. No one ever taught them how sensitive the morning is. No one ever told them that the first breath after waking determines the direction of the day. This is why I teach the first breath practice. It is simple, but it is one of the most important disciplines of manifestation. When you first open your eyes, before you touch anything, before you speak, before you remember yesterday, you take one slow, deep breath. Not a normal breath, a chosen breath, a conscious breath. A breath that acts as a spiritual seal. As you inhale, you mentally say, I receive. As you exhale, you mentally say, I trust. That is it. That single cycle anchors the work your soul did during the night. It locks in the frequency. It stabilizes the alignment. It prevents doubt from hijacking the day. It tells the universe, I am prepared to hold what I asked for. That breath is not just air. It is intention. It is acceptance. It is readiness. The first breath becomes the vessel that catches the blessings descending from the upper worlds. And once that vessel is steady, the rest of the day unfolds from a place of clarity rather than chaos. When you master the night and you master the first breath of morning, the universe no longer needs to push blessings toward you. They flow naturally because your entire system is aligned. The soul's ascent, the subconscious reorganization, and your conscious morning anchoring all work together to form a seamless cycle of creation. The sleep cycle of miracles is always active. The question is never whether the universe is working for you. The question is whether you're allowing the flow to continue when you wake. When you do, manifestation stops being a struggle and becomes a rhythm. The rhythm of the soul working in harmony with the universe, even while you rest. Most people expect the universe to answer them in one way: immediately, obviously, and exactly as they imagined. They think manifestation should arrive like a neatly wrapped package at their front door: clear, unmistakable, undeniable. But the universe doesn't work like a delivery service. It works like a conversation, a dialogue between your soul and the upper worlds. And that means responses can come in different forms: some direct, some disguised, some challenging, some dazzling. The key is learning to recognize them before they slip past. When your nighttime intention is aligned, your thought, your emotion, your desire, your request is released into spiritual motion. But what comes back to you depends on what your soul actually needs, not just what your mind asked for. There are 3 primary forms of response, and once you understand them, you'll never again say, "Why isn't anything happening?" You'll realize things were happening all along. You just didn't know how to read the language. The first type is direct manifestation. This is the response everyone hopes for, and it does happen, sometimes faster than you expect. Direct manifestation occurs when nothing stands between the spiritual blueprint and the physical outcome. There's no resistance, no block, no misalignment. It's like planting a seed in perfect soil with perfect light. You ask for clarity, and within hours someone calls with exactly the information you needed. You choose abundance, and a forgotten opportunity suddenly resurfaces. You choose healing, and your body responds immediately. These moments feel miraculous because the physical world bends smoothly into place. But direct manifestation is just one form, and not the most common. The second form is redirected manifestation. This is where most people fail the test. The universe says yes, but not in the way you expected. Instead of the door you knocked on opening, another door cracks open in the corner of the room. Instead of the specific outcome you imagined, a better or more aligned version appears, one you may initially resist. People who don't understand spiritual alignment call these moments confusing. They say, "Why is this happening instead of that?" Or, "Why didn't I get exactly what I asked for?" But what they don't realize is that the universe is not denying them. It's navigating them. Redirected manifestation is like a cosmic rerouting, a divine GPS that's saying, "I know where you're trying to go. This is the road without traffic." I've seen countless people miss miracles disguised as detours. A man who lost a job he hated, panicked, and almost collapsed under fear, only to receive an offer 2 weeks later that doubled his salary. A woman who was devastated after a relationship ended, not realizing she had been praying for partnership alignment, and the breakup was the alignment. These were not setbacks, they were responses. But until they recognized them as such, they saw only chaos instead of direction. The third form is developmental challenges. These are the tests that arrive not to block you, but to build you. When your desire is big, the universe strengthens the vessel first. If you ask for abundance, but your mindset is fragile, you'll be given situations that force you to anchor confidence. If you choose purpose, but carry self-doubt, you'll meet experiences that train courage. If you choose freedom, but cling to old habits, you'll encounter challenges that reveal what you must release. Most people misinterpret these moments as punishment. They say, "Why is everything going wrong after I finally asked for what I want?" But nothing is going wrong. Things are being strengthened. The vessel is being expanded. The people who succeed spiritually are the ones who recognize developmental challenges as part of the answer, not a deviation from it. I've seen this firsthand. Years ago, a student asked the universe for guidance in building a business. The very next week, his most reliable supplier collapsed. He was angry, confused, convinced he was being punished. But that collapse forced him into a new industry connection, one that eventually multiplied his impact tenfold. The collapse wasn't blocking him, it was upgrading him. But he only realized this months later. The universe always responds. The question is whether you recognize the form. Direct manifestation says, "Here is your request." Redirected manifestation says, "Here is something even more aligned." Developmental challenges say, "Here is who you must become to hold what you asked for." Once you understand these forms, you stop panicking and start perceiving. You stop doubting and start aligning. You stop resisting and start expanding. Because asking before sleep plants the seed, but action waters it. Effort shapes it. Courage protects it. Movement invites it. The universe opens doors for those who walk, not those who wait. When your nighttime intention aligns with your daytime action, manifestation becomes inevitable. The universe is already speaking. Your job is to learn its language and step forward every day as someone who is ready to receive.